And I'll do my usual check on the platforms I stream to. Make sure it's all. Make sure everything else is muted on the other platforms. Make sure it's all. Oh, there we go. Why is this one still spinning now? Probably because it's Facebook. Weird. Let's close that. Try again. It's Facebook. Oops. Weird. Oh, there it is. All right. Okay, then. Now we're in business. By golly. All right. All right. Well, welcome everyone to WyzGyz Entertainment. This is your host, Wyman. We are joined by a very special guest, BoogieBotComics.
Hey, howdy, hey.
We're checking out Robert, the graphic novel. Before we actually dig into this, would you take a moment and share with the audience, like the beginnings, what all led you up to eventually launching this Indiegogo graphic novel? I mean, did you have a background in comics? Did you have a career in comics, or did it all just start from a passion of reading comic books, or do you start with toys and then go into comics, or what? What's your origin story?
Well, just to give a little bit of like the kind of like origin story for myself, it's I in terms of like my background in comics, I actually worked for about 5 years with an independent publisher. We called ourselves Unearthly Comics, and I was with them for about 5 years until we all kind of decided to like work a little bit like individually on our own like IPs, our own projects and stuff like that. So I've been going around to different conventions to just kind of like sell my book and everything. And Robert, it's sort of this Indiegogo version of Robert is actually a somewhat remaster, like a brand new artwork and like new story to go along for like the graphic novel. When I was with the company, I actually released two individual issues for Robert, and the the beginnings of Robert was mostly just when I was a kid. My grandfather, he actually really loved like the old kind of Clint Eastwood sort of Western films, and I was really into as a kid. I was really into like Iron Man and like Transformers. So I always kind of had like a love for like robots. Like robots were always my thing. If anything had robots in it, I was always there. And for westerns, my grandfather, he kind of introduced me to like the whole like westerns, like western films, like spaghetti westerns. And
Yeah.
when I started working with Unearthly, I kind of said like, well, I wanted to make something that would just blend it too, or at least just be kind of like a mix of like everything kind of western and like sci-fi. And that's where the idea for Robert kind of came from. It was just me wanting to kind of make a blend of like everything that I liked into one sort of book.
Okay. So, are you? Would you classify yourself as the creator and storyteller? Are you also an artist? Do you do pencils, inks, colors, lettering?
For this book, I'm doing all of it. I'm actually I'm actually the writer, the penciler, inker, the colorist, the letterer, and then I'll be fulfilling it whenever the project's completely done.
Oh, wow! All right. So you had some background working for more or less an indie publisher. Is that right?
Yeah, it was for like an indie publisher. We would usually when we would go to these conventions, we would have like our own comic books that we had like paid out of our pocket for like the printing, and we
Mm-hmm.
would go to these conventions. to kind of like sell them at like a lot of like smaller conventions. We would also do like some Comic Cons like here and there, and if we made enough money at one convention, we would use that money to print more books and then be able to do like a slightly bigger convention. So it was more along the lines of whatever we printed, whatever we printed and whatever we sold, we would always put that money back into the company to be able to produce more books, and then go around the conventions to kind of like get our names out there, as well as to kind of like have something under our belt, which would be like our own like individual like ideas.
So with that publisher, was it sort of like a version of like Image Comics, that
And
kind of setup where everyone works on their own IP?
yeah, so like in a way, like it was kind of like we each owned our own individual kind of like ideas, but we would each put the Unearthly logo. Like we would all like publish it like under the same one like domain, as like this kind of like one company, but we would all have our own individual projects. But if there was a project that one of us needed kind of help on, like if one of us said, "Hey, would you mind inking these pages for me?" or like, "Hey, do you think you'd want to do the colors?" We all kind of worked a little bit like in tandem with each other, but we still had our individual ideas that we would be able to like own ourselves.
So how did you build your skills in all those areas? Storytelling, scripting, art, um, drawing, colors, letters.
For story, it was just a matter of just like over the years, just all the comic books that I read growing up. It's just like all the like I loved a lot of like action when it came to like comic books and a lot of like graphic novels. I was a big fan of the like when I was younger, I was a big fan of the like Alan Moore like Watchmen comics. So a lot of the inspiration from from the Watchmen was like for a lot of like the John, like I think it was John Higgins for like or I think John Hughes for his color scheme for like for Robert. That's what kind of inspired me to do something like that. For a lot of like the art styles, I got inspired from like the inking from like Sean Gordon Murphy. Uh, and then like in terms of storytelling, that it was just like all the movies and TV shows that I watched growing up that I just kind of said, well, this would be something that kind of helped guide me into the direction of like what I'm wanting to kind of make my story kind of be, like not necessarily just like copying from it, but at least like taking inspiration from it.
Okay. Do you find these varied skills came easy to you, or did it take a whole lot of practice over the years?
I think story kind of story I'm still working on, like to kind of like refine it and like get it to the point where I think uh my storytelling sort of like skills can kind of go to. In terms of the art, there's always room for improvement, and I've always been like a big advocator of that. Like for any artist, like no matter how big or small, like an artist like may see or like may see themselves or may be, there's always room for improvement. No matter how good the art is, like every artist out there, I'm sure they always say like, well, I could have done this panel better, or I could have had these inks, or just there's always something that can be improved. And I'm no stranger to being able to make improvements to a project like over time.
So you released two issues of Robert through the small publishing company you worked for,
Hmm.
and then what? Do you work on other projects? Do you find yourself helping out? You mentioned how you guys could help each other when needed
Hmm.
on other books. Were you doing a lot of that as well, or were you in the process of working on book three of Robert?
Yeah, I was in the process of finishing issue 3 until we all kind of decided it was a little like it was around the beginning of this year where we all kind of said, well, let's take a year to sort of kind of like each individually work on our own things, and then we can come back whenever we have like a lot of that stuff finished so we can print them and then go to conventions and like hopefully like sell them there or start Indiegogos, and like kind of help each other along the way. One of the projects that I was helping with a buddy of mine, he goes by the name of El Cinto on Instagram, and he does phenomenal work, and he's been a big help too with helping me kind of like guide the story for Robert. The main story for Robert is still my interpretation of like what I kind of like wanted to see the characters, but we always kind of help each other like here and there, like for like character designs or where we think the backstory can go for certain characters in each other's books. It's kind of it's not necessarily like, oh, he made this like he made this, or like I own this because this and this. It's more along the lines like with us, we all help each other out like in the company, no matter if it's like our own individual IPs.
So you guys made that decision early 2020?
Yes, it was kind of a strange sort of thing. We made that decision towards the beginning of 2020, where we said, well, let's just take a minute to kind of like let's just take the year off, like from circulating to conventions, like save that money, and whatever books we sold through our website, we would use that money for like printing costs or like convention costs when we get back to like the conventions, and then the whole pandemic happened, and it seemed like for us, we just kind of went, well, I mean, technically it's what we wanted. We were still going to take the year off anyways. And with Indiegogo, it made it even much more clear, at least for myself, to actually be able to start the project and kind of like get some leeway on it. Like whenever, because we're all in our homes right now. And I feel like Indiegogo was the best course for me to take, at least for the moment.
So so it was more or less coincidence, right? That you guys made that decision at the beginning of the year. It wasn't like you guys started seeing in the news this thing going on in China and all these news reports, and then you guys, did some digging and investigation, and then
No,
you came up with this prediction. You know what? Things are about to hit the fan.
no, it was completely coincidental, and we had actually, I think our last convention that we had was I want to say in February. That was when we had like our last like kind of small convention, and like we would hear about it in the news, kind of like very like kind of hush hush, like nobody at the time, nobody really knew what was going on, so we all just kind of said like, well, this would be like the last convention that we do for a little while, and we'll pack it up. We'll each take our own individual books, and we'll come back again if there's like a, because in our area they usually do like, you know how like sometimes there'll be like local free conventions where like if it's like a like first come first serve sort of basis for like like getting booths and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So we said like throughout this year, we would take time off to like develop our own books. But if there was a convention that we can go to for free to sell our books, then we would do that. But then all of that kind of happened.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in concept and in theory, it sounds really great. This environment you guys have with this publishing company where you guys work so well together. But in terms of ultimately controlling your own property down the road for many years to come and possibly develop them into actual full on franchises,
Mhm.
is there like a cut and dry distinction? I mean, do you have it all laid down on paper how things work in the end, like contract wise, or is it
For
free flowing kind of thing?
it's kind of a free flowing sort of thing, because like we all started the company on our own. Like it's not like one specific person owns like the company, or one person specifically like own like the name. So if one of our projects ended up becoming big, it's not like somebody can just come around the corner and just try to take it from under us. um we're all pretty relaxed guys, like in the company, because it's it's myself and along with three other guys, and we, for all of our projects, we just kind of it's more like a free flowing sort of thing. If somebody wanted to come in and create something with us, they would have the right to their own IPs, and they would be able to take those books afterwards to be able to sell them at like their own conventions.
Hmm. When you guys, so it's you and three other guys,
Mhm.
as you guys have been making your books, do you guys have a tendency to like throw in Easter eggs with like like little clues to other characters from the other people's books?
Yeah, so for a couple of our books, it was usually just we would usually have like little references and stuff like that to each other's work. Like in the I believe in the second issue of Robert that I had in on one of the pages I had like posters in like a bar scene where you could see like, oh, it's a poster to one of my buddies like comics, and maybe like a sticker on like the wall somewhere else, like on one of the panels kind of hidden. Yeah, it was always like a very kind of like tongue-in-cheek sort of like like little references, because we were all in like the same sort of company, and we all just kind of said, Wouldn't it be funny if like we just had this in the background?" Like, because like most people that bought our books, they wouldn't usually just buy one of our books. They would usually, like we always had a deal where it was always buy three books for 10. Like we usually had a price, because like each book we would sell for $5, and we would basically kind of give people like kind of like, oh, a free book, like kind of incentive. So they would usually pick three different IPs that they saw like
Yeah.
on ourselves. They would usually pick like maybe the first issue from Robert, or the first issue from, we had sort of like a Twilight Zone sort of like anthology series called Atomic Tales,
Oh.
and we had El Cinto, which was like a crime fighting like a Mexican wrestler comic.
Oh, okay.
And most people that came to our booths, they would always buy like one of each to kind of like dabble, because they weren't sure like, oh well, am I gonna like this or not? So
Yeah.
they would pick one of each, and then the next time around, we always did them locally, because we knew by the next time we come back, we'll have the next issue for people to, if they liked it, then they would come back and get the second issue.
Cool. Welcome, Frago Funding. He'd like to know, do you prefer traditional or boneless wings?
I'm gonna say traditional, traditional wings, but I'm not gonna knock boneless wings either. But I will say boneless wings, to like for myself, I always joke about it and say boneless wings are glorified chicken nuggets,
Yeah,
because
they actually are, aren't they?
they're always overpriced at like most places that you go to. Like if they're always overpriced, and they don't give you as much meat as they would for like the regular traditional wings.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, whenever I get that stuff, I'm usually either going to, um, well, actually, places like Walmart have a little deli area where you can order hot food, and
Oh
you
yeah.
can get it from places like that.
if
Uh,
if you're ever ordering from like if you ever order from like Pluckers, their boneless wings are actually really really good,
mm,
because they call them boneless wings at Pluckers, but they're not boneless. They're essentially chicken strips, but,
uh,
but they're the price of like a chicken strip platter. So who knows why they call them that for whatever reason.
branding. It sounds kind of familiar. I might have been there once. Welcome, Matanui. Matanui says hi.
Ayo,
Fergus is nice. Boneless wings are better.
we got a 50-50 here.
Paying $10 for 5 nuggets. Lol. Yeah, really.
I think McDonald's used to have that whole like, I think it was like for $5. They had some deal where like you would get like the big bucket of like 50 wings or something like that. Well, like not wings, like 50 nuggets for like $10 or something.
Yeah, I think it's either at certain locations, or maybe it's one of those hidden menu. Uh,
Like hidden menu items.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so you're from the Texas area, right?
Yes.
Have you traveled much outside of the state?
For outside of the state, we've done a little bit of traveling. Well, myself, I've done some traveling for like vacation, like with my family. We used to go to like Florida, like Mississippi, mostly just to kind of like get out of the state for a little while and just kind of relax. But in terms of like if it was like conventions that we would go to, we would always go like mostly out of the city.
Uh,
Like most places, we would end up going to like Austin or Houston.
is that where the bigger ones were? You said you went to a lot of local small ones, comic conventions. Did Austin and Houston have the bigger ones?
Yeah, so like Austin and Houston usually had like the much like larger ones. I think there was one in Houston called I think it was the Staples.
Mm.
Um, I think it was like a bigger sort of convention that they would host there every once in a while, or Comic Palooza. I think that was another one that they always like hosted there. And in Austin, the artist scene, like the indie artist scene in Austin, was always really good. Like I know in most states they usually have like typically like there's always a city that has like the most like indie sort of like art scene, and
Oh,
Austin for us in Texas was usually the scene where we would always like try to go to for like the smaller conventions.
okay. All right. There's did you guys ever make it to exhibit at the San Diego Comic Con?
We were actually really trying to go to the San Diego at one point, but if we were to go there, it would all have to be either out of our pockets, or we would have to completely save all that money that we were making from the books just to be able to fly like each one of us out and
Yeah.
have enough books, to be able to, go there, or even like hotel pricing.
Are
And now we'd be able to go to San Diego no problem because it's all online.
oh yeah. Are all four of you creators based out of Texas, or are you guys in different states?
We're all from Texas actually.
Okay. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there was another big comic expo in New York Comic Con too.
Hmm.
Um, all right. Did you guys find the whole convention circuit experience beneficial to your guys's comic books and graphic novels, or was it just like so kind of business and exposure?
For us, we thought it actually did pretty well for us. Like, because sometimes we would have there would always be people that wanted commissions too. Even if we weren't necessarily like larger names, like some of the like bigger like artists out there, there was always people who wanted commissions just of like maybe a favorite character or even like a sketch card.
Cool.
So we would still be able to like at least pocket some money like for ourselves individually, for our work. But most of the money that we made for printing, like most of the money that we made off of our books was mostly just it just dove right back into the printing because it was mostly for us to try to like get our names out there as well as tell a story, at least to like have our stories like written down, like on like the printed page.
Now, according to Indiegogo, at least, this is your first campaign. Did you uh, ever launch any projects on Kickstarter first, or how did you know Indiegogo was the way to go?
I mostly did Indiegogo because I noticed there was just like the big indie comic scene right now where it was just people wanting to go towards Indiegogo. And with Kickstarter, I thought about wanting to launch it through Kickstarter before, but just from all of the I've heard from people just that like there's a lot of like gatekeeping when it comes to Kickstarter, and just maybe some certain projects not being allowed to be on there. Like, I'm I don't know if maybe Robert wouldn't have been allowed on there. I mean, it's a robot. I don't know if there's any like I don't know if there'd be any reason to keep that off of there. But I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to wanting to do a Kickstarter at some point either. But so far, it seems like the audience that I've kind of like built up, that they prefer Indiegogo for the most part.
Gotcha. So far, we're looking at 755 USD earned so far from 15 backers.
Hmm.
That's already 25% of your $3,000 flexible goal. Um, you probably have a detail later on in the campaign, but how did you come up with the 3,000? Is it predominantly the shipping costs, or do you also uh, are you also factoring in how much since you're doing like literally everything from story to pencils to inks to colors to lettering to fulfillment all by yourself? Did you actually do the math and calculate how much your time is worth, and it all came out that plus shipping came up to 3,000?
It all kind of like wrapped up in the one because most of the audience that I kind of like have too, if you've heard of have you been on or seen other YouTubers like Michael Bancroft?
Yeah.
Yeah, like because he lives in Australia, and a lot of the people that so far have actually been really into my book, they've either live in Australia or they live in what's the other one, like in the UK. So for a lot of like the costs, like a lot of like the cost measures, I know there's a lot of people who get scared of books never arriving to certain locations, and especially when they're having to go overseas. Um, the shipping cost is like the shipping cost is just so expensive to actually like ship from here to there, and especially since it being me myself in this campaign alone, I wanted to make sure that there would be some sort of leeway in case, like leeway for myself, like in case a book didn't arrive somewhere, maybe I'd be able to like have those extra books also printed in case, some get damaged on the way, or just the shipping cost in general is like is just super expensive, like just for myself to be able to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And even with media mail being like, I think like $2 or $3, and then having to order the packages to actually be able to ship them in. Is just a lot of like cost factors in there, and then also I do have my own full time job too, so it would take a little bit of strain from being able to have to work 5 days a week. I'd be able to actually like work more solely on just like to be able to work on the book to get it out faster to people.
So you're working on this project and this campaign all in your free time since you have a regular full time job.
Yeah.
Okay. And it says 27 days left. Are you doing one of those? Uh, are you doing one of those campaigns where you have it broken out into two $30 funding campaigns and then you go in demand? Or did this start off with a single 60-day campaign?
This started off with the for the first 30 days, and then once these 30 days end up, if we're funded by then I'll keep it in demand, or with the next 30 days after, like when I add 30 days to it, that'll be, I believe, 60 days from then. So
All right.
I'm hoping within these 30 days we'd be able to get this book funded, because so far we're up to 25% funded.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely doable. I think also that it might still behoove you, it being your first project, to, continue a second round of 30 days of funding, even if you are fully funded within the first 30,
Hmm.
just to, give you some more overhead financially,
Hmm.
more opportunities to bring in money. And sometimes people don't hear about campaigns within the first 30 days, or they hear about late, but then, they're waiting on their next paycheck. So they can't fund you immediately before the campaign ends. So it helps to, uh,
Keep it all on as long as possible for
yeah,
people.
yeah, especially if you're new and this is the first book you're releasing through crowdfunding.
Hmm.
Um, so that looks good. So we're still in the first 30 days. You,
Yes.
you just literally launched like 3 days ago.
I actually launched it with Michael Bancroft on, I think, Monday. I think it was Monday night that I actually like launched it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, he's pretty cool.
And I think for the most part, like from the from the amount that we have, I think it is doable for us to be able to actually like get this project funded. Uh, but I know it being kind of like my first time on Indiegogo, being able to fulfill this for people, that's usually in the backlog of like most people where they want to know if I'm actually going to fulfill it or not. So I wanted to also ensure people that I will be able to fund it because I've been to conventions. I know printing costs. I've talked to printers before. And again, from me being with the indie publisher for about 5 years, um, I know a little bit more or less like kind of like what kind of it takes to actually print a book and then be able to ship it out to people as well. So I just wanted to give people a little bit more like that reassurance that they're going to actually get their book if they back this project.
All right. The Does Robert the graphic novel? We'll probably learn later on anyway. But just in case, the is Robert the graphic novel a compilation of the first two issues that had been released at the comic book conventions, or is there even more content beyond that?
Oh, there's way more content in this graphic novel than there was in the first two books. The first two books for the first two issues that I actually released, uh, the artwork, the story is roughly the same, except I've tweaked it and I've added more story to this graphic novel because this graphic novel from the ground up is 100% new artwork and it's 100% new artwork as well as uh, just brand new story that's added to it. Like,
Oh.
so the general idea from the first two issues is still there, but there's a lot more added into this book that I wasn't able to finish with maybe an issue three from the first two issues of Robert.
So it's not a case where you took the two books that were already published, slapped them together, and then added some additional content, and boom, now you got a graphic novel. It's actually like kind of starting from the ground up and redoing your artwork and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's 100% new. Like again, the story concept is still the same, like at its core, but there's just a lot more stuff added to it. I just didn't want to kind of hastily slap something together and just see what kind of like I would be able to get off of it because I wanted to make sure that the artwork was what I wanted to see and uh because like from when I first released the first issue, it was all the way back in 2014. So like being like having released the first issue or like doing the artwork for it back in 2014, my art style has vastly improved since then. So
Mm.
I didn't want to just slap something together with a couple of new pages and just call it a day. I actually wanted to refine the kind of style for Robert and really give it its own sort of like vision for it, for like for, at least for this graphic novel.
Mm. All right, sweet. Let's play the trailer.
Yep, let's do it.
You designed the logo?
Hmm.
Cool.
And even like the little animations in this, I did all myself.
And you made the trailer yourself as
Hmm.
well?
The trailer, the music, and the animations in here.
Wait, you composed music too?
Hmm.
Damn. Nice motorcycle. Oh, is that fun? Oh. Oh wow. That's like a teaser.
Yeah, for that first trailer, I released that trailer a while back when I had the pre-launch page kind of going on, but I wanted to. Originally I wanted to have a new trailer for like the release of the Indiegogo, but I also didn't want to just like have a trailer just like slop together like really fast for it. So I'm actually working with my brother who does music uh, to actually compose a new song for Robert, sort of like a theme song The song that I had in this trailer, I had done myself, but I feel like because I don't play guitar myself, but I wanted to ask him to sort of compose this sort of like spaghetti western sort of song, like from A Fistful of Dollars, or
Uh,
like those old like guitar shredding sort of like sounds from there.
oh my gosh, yeah, that stuff is awesome. Oh man, yeah, that was pretty clean. Uh, I think the only thing I'd be wanting from it beyond that is, just briefly the credits. Well, you basically did everything, and also, you know, a few basic stats like maybe the dimensions of the book, if how many pages it is, and what the dimensions of the book are.
Mhm.
But you do break it down here, which is a 60-page full color graphic novel. Um, is this book actually already completed? Is it already made, or are you like 25%, 50% of the way through making it?
I talk a little bit about that towards the bottom. I actually have 25% of the pages fully completed. 25% of the pages they're completely inked, colored, penciled, and just completely refined. And I have 10 pages right now that are penciled that I'm actually in the process of inking right now. So as of now, 25% of the book is completely done, and I'll be finishing maybe. I'm hoping to have the actual completed pages by the end of this year. If all things go well, like from my timing and everything, I'm hoping to have this book completely done by the end of the year, and then
Mm.
because the book I'm hoping to ship out by May of next year. And I think that gives me enough time to actually complete the artwork, hopefully this year. And then next year, the first couple of months would be just talking to printers and getting of like the extra little things like maybe like bookmarks, stickers, and like the actual like shipping information that I'm going to be needing for like the packages and whatnot. I think that gives me enough time to actually be able to give that into the people's hands.
Sounds good. Sounds like you've thought this pretty well through, which is good.
And then that's the cover right there. That's actually the finished cover, like color, like in colors that I did. The interior pages I'm actually doing digital, but for all the covers I'm doing on paper, like on actual bristleboard and ink.
Mm.
And these are some of the interior pages right here. That's page 1 through 5, and then some of the other pages that I have past the fifth page are pages that are out of order, but it kind of gives people a little bit of an idea of like what's to come in there. Yeah, so that's page 2 right there, and that's one of our main characters, Eastwood.
Cool. So
And page 3,
covers you do traditionally, interiors you do digitally.
yeah.
Are you self-taught, or did someone teach you how to?
I'm mostly self-taught. Some tips and tricks I've actually learned along the way, like for figure drawing and stuff like that. The high school that I went to, I actually went to like an art school.
Hmm.
So we studied a lot of like figure drawing as well as like point perspective, shading and uh, like architecture. So a lot of that stuff I've just kind of transferred into wanting to, for like creating comic books. Because for most of my life, I've always just wanted to create comic books, and I feel like anything that I've learned along the way from like different artists, or sometimes some artists that I met in like Artist Alley at certain conventions,
Right.
when they take a look at my artwork, sometimes they give me like a tip and a trick to kind of say like, well, you could do this like color wise, or maybe add a little bit of like saturation to like the background, or uh, certain like figure perspectives. Like one of my teachers from the high school I went to, he taught me just a quick rule just for like having proportional people was just for having like a proportional person, it's the size of the head should be the length of the body. I think it's like eight heads should like eight sizes of the heads should be the size of the body. Like in respect like in perspective to the head. Like if you got the size of the head and just made eight of those on a page, that would be the length of the person's body.
Yep. Yep. That's one of those basic foundational rules.
Yeah, so it's always like a lot of like little tips and tricks like that that I've learned along the way. But for the most part, the styling that I've had is just either gaining inspiration from certain artists or just trying to make something of my own with it.
Since you, ever since you had been working as a self-publisher, um, well, actually, did you tend to lean toward mimicking another artist style that you admire, or have you more or less had your own style from the beginning?
When I was younger, I was actually really into the Sean Gordon Murphy's artwork, like the sort of like kind of sketch, like almost like sketching with ink in a way, kind of like how he does like really fast. A little bit of that style sort of shows in the original issue one for Robert, and some of that I think I've carried through for this graphic novel, but I think it's different enough in the style because I've tried to go away from that sort of style of Sean Gordon Murphy to try to make it my own.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for some artists, like they're always going to have certain influences in their art, which it's to me it's never necessarily a bad thing. It's mostly just a matter of can you still make it, your own art? Like will it still be recognizable as your own instead of trying to interpret it as someone else's? So I feel like with Robert, I think I've kind of made a nice blend of like a lot of the inspirations that I've had over the years.
I like your style, and I love the coloring. What is your um, so how do you do your digital art? What software do you use? Do you use a tablet, or do you use, well, like, do you use a tablet that has a screen and internet built in, or do you have one that plugs into a computer? Do you use a stylus or a mouse?
I actually use the iPad. I use the iPad Pro, and I use Procreate to make all the pages in here.
Procreate, nice.
Mhm. And then a lot of the times I'll like if I need to clean anything up, what I'll usually do is I'll take the pages from Procreate and I'll load them into my Photoshop. And if I need to clean anything up that way, I'll usually maybe clean up some inks or maybe the resolution and then bring them back into Procreate to actually color them. Because with me, I'm more of a hands-on sort of person. I have to have the stylist and I have to be drawing on there. Otherwise, like if for me, it's just like an eye sort of thing where I have to be able to see it on the page with the stylus that I'm using.
Hmm. Nice.
And then I feel like I was able to carry that over pretty well with the bristle board because the cover that I had made um, for the graphic novel, I actually did that completely on bristle board with ink,
Oh,
and then the colors I actually brought. I scanned it and then brought it into Procreate to actually be able to add the screen tones and then the colors as well into it. And then these two pages right here, it's actually going to be a double page spread in the book. So that's I believe this page is 4 and 5, the one with the
oh,
motorcycle.
right, right. Pretty cool.
And then some of the pages that are here, they're out of order because I want to kind of like let the reader see some of the pages. I don't want to spoil them too much for the story just yet,
Oh,
but
yeah, for
but I
sure.
want them to see some of the pages like this is the page right here where they're actually finding Robert for the first time.
Cool. When you designed Eastwood, did do you design it such that his wiring or his structure was kind of based on the human anatomy? You know, the way muscles interconnect.
A little bit in that sort of regard, just mostly the because I've seen like a lot of like broken down robots, how they always have like certain like wires exposed, or um a lot of the times whenever most robots like for like a lot of robots that we kind of create, they usually tend to try to mimic human, kind of like human anatomy, and like a lot of the times like the wiring or like kind of like fits in that sort of like space for like the arms and legs. Like in Eastwood's neck, there's two kind of pipes or like cords that go into his head, and that's kind of the same for like us. We have these two,
Arteries.
yeah, like we have them on the sides of like our neck that kind of go in. So, so some of the design choices that I've made were just kind of based off of like humans, but then also uh, certain robots that I've seen throughout like history,
Hmm.
like some like the Iron Giant,
Yeah.
or like the robot from was it from Robots for Rodney.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so a lot of the design cues I wanted to try to make sure that like people still recognize these as robots, but then also have something familiar enough for people to kind of say, oh, well, that's kind of similar to this robot. So there's a little something that people will remember from everything.
Right. Yeah. When uh when I see pictures of Robert, I immediately think Iron Giant. Kind of in that style or that vein. Pretty cool stuff.
And the sparks on this page were like the hardest thing to do, just mostly because I had to add those on a different layer and then create like a. There's this thing in like in Photoshop, or it's called like creating holds, which is being able to color the actual like line art. So that's what kind of gives it the kind of like colored sort of look.
Huh. And is that what gives it that added glow
Hmm.
around the perimeter?
And then a lot of the John, I believe, I think I'm saying his name right, John Higgins, or I believe it's John Higgins. He did the colors for most of Alan Moore's books, like for The Killing Joke and for Watchmen. And I wanted to kind of give a little bit of that sort of like style for like some of the characters, where like like the color choices for the characters, it's not necessarily the actual colors that they would be colored in, but it makes it more dramatic for the scene.
Ah. Meet the characters Robert, the bot out of time. Dun-dun-dun.
And Charles the charlatan, and Eastwood the bot with no face. And those little kind of title cards for each of them, it does play a role in the story. But for Robert, the reason why that tagline, the bot at a time, is there is mostly because in the story we're actually going to see that Robert was the first robot ever made, and he was actually built in the 1800s.
Huh.
And then that actually plays a factor in the story as to why, because him being made in the 1800s, he kind of like grew up in the kind of like Western times, and when they find him in the future, when they wake him, like when they basically restart him, he doesn't seem like anything is like out of place, because everything looks like a Western again, because everything is kind of post-apocalyptic. Everybody's using like the barter system,
Mm.
like trading goods for like services. So in Robert's eyes, he doesn't really see anything is out of place, because it just feels like Western times again. The only difference is that if there's robots that are there surrounding him, because back in the 1800s there weren't any other robots except for him.
Mm. Okay. It almost sounds a touch like a fish out of water story.
Yeah, for Robert, it'll be somewhat of like a fish out of water, but with the added bonus of just it's supposed to be a big sort of like Western adventure. I,
Yeah,
I want I wanted the story to be at least not intensely simple, but I just wanted people to be able to read something that was just fun. Like just something that was action packed and something that didn't really have to go too deep into this. Not that there is anything like deep in the story, but just something that would make people engaged with a nice story because these characters are gonna like they're gonna leave the audience actually wanting more of each of these characters.
yeah, I appreciate that because the whole thing that the whole reason I even got into comics in the beginning when I was younger was for that escapism.
Hmm.
I didn't need it to reflect the politics of the day. I didn't need it to reflect, you know, current events. I want to see fantastical creatures. I want to see uh, fantasy.
Yeah,
Um,
like you want to see Superman actually like just punching a bad guy and saving the day. You don't want to
yeah,
necessarily like not that it's horrible to get into like the character or like the psyche, but some you have to make it still entertaining where like oh you're still gonna see them like defeat the bad guy or just have an adventure to like make the audience know like oh this is just a fun book.
yeah, yeah. I like this the Western. You that whole thing about um, pulling back the hammer on the revolver and shooting multiple times. That's a
Mhm.
pretty good looking way you uh, drew it out.
Well, thank
Pretty
you.
cool. The BoogieBot, the team, story, penciler, inker, colors, letter, fulfillment. My goodness, you're 23 years old only?
Yep, I'm
Wow.
23 and my birthday I actually just turned 23 this past July.
Whoa. You're a youngin'. My goodness.
Yeah, so technically I was 22 whenever I was actually starting the Indiegogo for this.
Wow. My goodness. Let's see. Writer of the past 5 years working with Unearthly Comics, creating and selling comic books at conventions.
And it's a little bit of like the black and white artwork there.
Now, is this before you put on the colors?
This right here, yeah, this is before I put the colors on. Yeah, because it's just like the basic like line art for it.
Nice. Nice. I particularly like this lower right panel where you see all the detail and the lens of the eye.
Yeah, originally like from what I've seen in a lot of comic books, the one thing that I don't like about like a certain not that digital is a horrible medium to work with, it's just that some people tend to use it as an excuse to just like cut and paste certain panels.
Mm,
Um, where like they'll usually just like if they needed the exact same expression, they'll just copy and paste it. I still work in digital as if I can't erase it or that I have to draw something new on the next panel. So like the eye on this third panel is completely different. Like it's completely different than the eye on the second panel. Like it's not just zoomed in and stretched out. It's completely redrawn for it.
nice. Mhm. Yeah, it's very detailed and it conveys texture. Excuse me, which I really like. Oh, so that's what you really look like. Oh,
Yeah, I haven't revealed my face as of yet to most of the people that I've been showing off this book to.
yeah. So that's not quite your final form.
As of yet, no. But in those pictures, you can actually see some people holding issue one of Robert. In that second picture on the top right, uh, he's actually I was actually selling an issue one of Robert to that person.
All right. All right. So you break out the perks here in written form. Let's see. Robert graphic novel. Perk one. Robert the graphic novel sign. Robert black and white graphic novel. And Robert number one original single issue. A Robert sketch slash
Hmm.
character sketch. So, all right.
And that's the featured perk for people. I only have 50 of those available because it'd be hard to just to sketch out for everybody. So I wanted to keep it like to a minimum, just like how many people would be able to like order a sketch if they wanted it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Perk two, Robert graphic novel sign. Perk three, Robert graphic novels sign, plural. Perk four, Robert graphic novel, and Robert black and white graphic novel. So you've got a black and white version of it and a colorized version of it?
Hmm. Yep, I'll be having those two available for people because a lot of people they've been loving the line art that I've been doing for Robert. So I wanted to be able to kind of have like an almost sort of like artist edition where it's just the line art and screen tones that I've added into it.
Hmm. Um, I'll take a moment now to mention I read a little further up that all books in the campaign are going to be signed unless you specifically state that you don't wish to have it signed, right?
Yeah. Hmm. So like because I know how sometimes maybe there's somebody who might not want a signature on their book, they just want the straight book, or maybe they want maybe they want the signature inside of the book or on the cover. It's just dependent on like how most people would want, the signatures on there. I think most people would love to have the signatures maybe on the inside of the book, just so that way they feel like they can still have the book on a shelf, instead of like having maybe the ink sort of like rub off, or if they wanted to display it.
Um,
So just some options for people if they, when the campaign is over and I send out the next like the email for fulfillment, to ask people like, hey, did you want your book signed on the front cover, interior cover, or would you rather not have it at all, sort of thing.
so, are you actually going to take the time to reach out to every backer and ask them how they want their sign?
Yeah, I'll send an email, and for the ones who don't message back, I'm under the assumption that they wanted it exactly how it stated, which would just be signed on the cover.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, signed on the cover is perfectly fine by me. Excuse me, but like you said, other people may have differing opinions.
Hmm. And there's a little bit of the line art right there at the bottom underneath it. Um, that right there is the actual black and white bristleboard cover.
Now, do you work in? You touched on like resolution.
Mhm.
Uh, do you work in 11 by 17?
Yeah, the cover I did in 11 by 17 paper, and most of the interiors I've actually done in 11 by 17 as well, to kind of keep that resolution the same.
So, okay.
I know a lot of people had issues when it comes to like screen tones, because sometimes maybe screen tones might not come out as well on printed paper, but from the printers that I've worked with in the past, the screen tones have come through, and I feel like when we go into printing for this campaign, the people will be surprised to have like the screen tones like show up fully on the black and white artwork.
Yeah, it looks nice. Let's see here. Graphic novel sign. Part 4, the graphic novel and the black and white graphic novel. Part 5, original chapter, a cover art page signed, and it will be revealed. Original chapter.
Yeah, so like in graphic novels, how for some books, like for Batman or for Superman, how they usually have like the issues in a run, how they usually compile them into a graphic novel. For Robert, I'll be doing like the kind of chapter breaks as well, but I'll be doing 3 chapter breaks for the book. And for the cover, I wanted to. I don't have them available because I know how some people, like for some people, how they have like campaigns, how they usually say, "Oh, here's a perk for an original page," and some people might pay $300 or $500 for an original page, and it might not be the page from the book that they're wanting. So I want to make sure to people that whenever I'm done with the covers, that they'll be able to see it whenever the cover is done, if that's the actual cover that they're wanting. But to still ensure people that the level of quality that's going to be on the covers is the same quality that's going to be for the front cover.
Okay. Matanui says, honestly, I don't care for face reveals. I wish people would stop doing them.
I guess it's a good thing because I've always just kind of kept my voice only on these podcasts and streams for the most part.
That's fine by me. I think what it comes down to is Matanui says I'm ugly. Let's see. Original chapter, a cover art page sign will be revealed. Part 6, original chapter, B cover art page sign will be revealed. And then part 7, original chapter, C cover art page signed will be revealed. Internal covers will have the same quality as the cover inks.
And then that's why I show the cover inks. And then for stretch goals, we have only 4 stretch goals because for this campaign, I wanted to make it more streamlined for people. Once we reach those stretch goals, they'll automatically be added into every single perk for whatever they're ordering. And instead of making it like maybe an add-on edition or something, it's just stuff that'll automatically be added with your book once we reach that stretch goal.
Cool. At $3,500, there's the bookmark. At $4,000, an 11 by 17 folded poster. At $5,000, a second 11 by 17 folded poster. And then at $6,000, there's a Robert patch. The future has arrived today.
And then that's the cover I'm thinking about doing for the back of the graphic novel, like the kind of like description of like the kind of bio, like backstory. Like I'm hoping that this will be the page that goes on the back of the book.
Nice. It's laid out just like like a movie poster. Hello. All the way down to the narrow squished lettering, or this particular font laid out just like a movie. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always love those old style like kind of Western posters where they always look like they were hand drawn. Like the hand drawn sort of like oil pastels and like color pencils. So I wanted to kind of give that same sort of feeling for the covers that I use for Robert. They kind of like give it that same sort of like Western aesthetic. Like it could be a poster hanging in like a movie theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I mean, you've already got a folded 11 by 17 poster as a stretch goal. Have you thought about maybe one day, well, maybe not necessarily on this campaign, but on the future campaign, doing a full-size movie poster like 24 by 36?
Yeah, I wanted to do that as well for this campaign, but just the logistics of actually being able to, get the packaging for it and everything. I wanted to make sure that I'll probably try to do that for the next campaign, which should be a little bit less of an actual goal to reach. But I'm hoping on that second one I'll be able to have like the full size, like movie poster size, like for people to be able to buy.
Yeah. I don't know if you could tell from my background and the quality of my camera, but I've got a lot of movie posters behind me on my walls.
No,
And
I have a lot of movie posters too. On the back of my wall right now, I have a Tron poster. I have Amazing Fantasy from Spider-Man, and then I have a Kick-Ass poster from the movie.
oh, Kick-Ass!
Yeah, I
No.
love those movies. I think those specifically are like the types of. Oh, and then a Transformers poster. And did you ever hear of a movie called Swiss Army Man by chance?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen it though.
So
Seems like fun.
it's a really fun movie, and just a cool bit of story. I actually used to work at a movie theater whenever that movie was being shown, and they had a giant cardboard cutout display of Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano, like from the movie. And I had asked them, like, "Hey, what are y'all guys gonna do when the movie's over? Like, are y'all guys gonna throw this out?" And they said, "Why? Do you want it?" And I said, "Well, not the whole thing. Can I just rip off like from the whole display? Can I just rip out Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano?" So I just have the big cardboard cutout on my wall.
How tall is it roughly?
Uh, I want to say 5 feet tall or maybe 6 feet tall.
Wow, that's a tall one. Yeah, I learned that if that some theaters will actually offer to give away old movie posters and things like that
Mhm.
to those interested. Like I went to New York for work last year, and I picked out a couple movies. I mean, they weren't necessarily movies that I actually went out to see, but because they were free, I grabbed them anyway. Uh, Madanui says, after about a month, I no longer care what someone looks like. That's fair enough. Yeah, I like movie posters. Risks and challenges to meet the quality uh, levels. You want to make sure it's up to the highest standard. Same goes for print quality and fulfillment.
Yeah, and then that's why the fulfillment date seems so far away for next year. But at the same time, I want to make sure because chances are maybe it could be printed before, and be fulfilled maybe by March or even uh, maybe January or something of that sort. But at the same time, I just wanted to give myself enough time and enough leeway to get the artwork done and then make sure that the print quality, because it's going to be a lot of like back and forth with the printing company to make sure that the book is up to the standard that I'm hoping for.
Hmm. Hmm. Very good. All right. So checking out the perks, we got the Robert Gears and Cogs bundle. Let's see. So you get the original graphic novel with the main cover. Did you say this was the main cover on the
Yeah.
left? All
Mhm.
right. And then the Robert original #1 issue.
Mhm.
So you already have those printed, right?
For the Robert issue 1, I have them printed
All
because
right.
it was the ones that I had with me from circling with the conventions, like from the convention circuit that we used to go on. So, and then that's also why I only have 50 available too, is just because I have enough to be able to, ship those out with the graphic novel whenever it's completed.
Right. That's cool that you have that available. Um, do you actually have any copies of issue #2 anymore?
I still have I believe 20 or so of issue 2. Um,
That's
but
like your personal collection.
Yeah, but I'm hoping if this does well, and if I do maybe a volume 2 of Robert, I think that'd be kind of a nice sort of thing to kind of add the issue 2 with the volume 2. Like volume 2 will be a continuation of this graphic novel, but issue 2 would just be the continuation of the first issue that I had done like a couple years ago.
Cool. And then you get a Robert sketch. When you say Robert sketch, let me see here.
Yeah, it'd be a black and white like inked sketch of like some of the character, like either one of the characters from the cover or characters that I reveal later on, because I'm working on more character bios. Maybe there's a character that somebody would really want on that for their for the like inked piece that they're wanting. Like maybe it's Charles, Robert, Eastwood, or even the villain of the story.
Uh,
Um, so I just wanted to give people like an option of what character they're wanting, because maybe the character that I draw for them, maybe it's not the one that they're wanting, or maybe they're wanting something else from Robert.
Very good.
And then they also get the black and white graphic novel with that Gears and Cogs bundle. So I think that one's a good value, I think, for everything that people are getting in there.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds pretty sweet. Robert sketch, black and white graphic novel. The sketch is on 6.5 by 10.5 inked, character of choice. Only 47, 47 of this tier left. And I always bring it up with every creator I have on. I love when the creator takes the time to make a featured tier.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I consider the most bang for your buck. It gives you a nice little sampling of stuff from the campaign that gives you the base book, so you can read the story, but also will occasionally have extra tchotchkes, goodies, and so the feature tier is rarely going to be the lowest and cheapest tier. It's not necessarily going to be the highest end tier, but odds are it'll be somewhere in between, somewhere in the middle.
And then with all the stretch goals that we pass with this campaign, they'll automatically be added to that Gears and Cogs bundle anyways. So like it's already a bang for your buck for all the stuff that you're getting in the featured tier, but you would also be getting all the extra added on stuff, whenever we reach those goals.
Absolutely.
And then that's the for the thumbnail, there's the colored cover, the black and white cover, and then that's the original Robert 1, the issue 1. So that's kind of where the artwork has evolved so far from.
Next one is Robert the graphic novel. That's the book only, the original one. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the book is perfect bound?
Yeah, it'll be perfect bound.
All right, cool. So that's 25. Then we've got Robert black and white. That's 25. So you got the color version and the black and white version. That's nice that you have both available.
Because I figured if people, maybe they're just wanting like one or the other, and I didn't want to like force people to have to buy the bundle, but there's also the bundle available if that's what they're wanting. And then the double barrel pack, that's for people overseas, because I know there's always they'll be packed in the same and like shipped with the same amount of money for like for the shipping costs. But like, let's say for people that are in Australia or like in the UK or elsewhere, like in the, like everywhere else in the world, it'd be a lot cheaper to buy the two versus having to buy two separate books with like the same amount of shipping. It'd just be like the same shipping cost for two books.
Yeah, you go in on it with a friend.
And then it's $5 cheaper because each book would be 25 versus the double barrel pack. They go for 45.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, people are coming up with creative ways to get around the whole ex, high cost of shipping,
Hmm.
and this is definitely an option. Some campaigns they'll make available a digital PDF version. Some will do this kind of thing. Some will even have additional bigger multi packs, like 5 copies.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
the whole
like the retail packs.
yeah, exactly. But the whole idea is to help the backers come up with more affordable solutions, so the cost of your shipping isn't exceeding the cost of the book.
Hmm.
As an example, um, uh, from the streams you've been on, you might have heard some creators are like teaming up. So if you're like in one country, but you make an arrangement with someone in another country, then once your book is completed, then part of the supply or the total printed books is sent to you, and then the other half is sent to, or the other fraction is sent to the person you're partnering with. And then let's say that person is in the UK, then they will help ship throughout to all the UK addresses while you ship to all the US addresses.
Hmm.
Um, that's starting to become a bigger and bigger thing too. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's always something for me to kind of like look into because I know a lot of people that are in Australia and then even in the UK. So I figure that's probably something that I have to look into at least for the next campaign, at least to make it cheaper for everyone else that's wanting to read the book too.
Yep. So it's good that you offer that. Then you've got Robert in color as well as Robert in black and white. So you
And
get
then
versions.
and then that's in the same value of 45 for the two of them.
Nice. Next here is interior cover art A. Actually, you have it broken out into A, B, C. Okay. Um,
Yeah,
nice.
and then each of those covers will be revealed whenever the artwork is like 100% done with those, and those will be available through the in-demand too whenever we get to that point.
Cool. Yeah, so the black and white cover is more or less like a variant cover, right?
Hmm. Well, no, the black and white, the entire book will be in black and white. Like it'll be the line art.
Oh, oh, all right. My bad. Let's see. Cover art A, B, and C. Did we already check that out?
Yeah,
Oh,
for
you were saying something about the actual covers A, B, and C being revealed in time.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because right now, it was mostly me trying to get the interior art at least done for the most part, like for the book to get that done as soon as possible, and then for the covers, I mostly wanted to ensure people that the cover like the covers that if they do buy them, they'll be in the same quality as the front cover, which is completely done on Bristol board, and then they'll be getting the original art for those.
Nice. Nice. Out of curiosity, what other streams have you had a chance to go on besides Michael Bancroft?
So far it's only been him, and then the other two that I'm hoping to get on very soon is for Mandy's show
Nice.
and for graded .5. I think that's for Optimus Deadpool.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
wanted to get onto his, and then I'm hoping at some point this month I can go on for Dan Fraga's for his drawing stream
oh, cool. Yeah.
for Fragaboom.
Yeah, those are all good choices. Yeah. I would also recommend trying to get on Charlie's London and Red Valkyrie with Cy and Shay.
Yeah, Red Valkyrie would be one that I'd be really excited to actually go on to too.
Yeah, that is man. I hate the word, but when you mentioned graded point and five with Optimus Deadpool, it immediately made me think that's pretty cool synergy because you're talking robots with the robot. uh, yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, definitely get on as many streams as you can and promote this, and we'll get that funded for sure. Let's check out the teaser trailer again. A thousand years in the making. Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm really digging the art. Looks like you got something really cool here, and it sounds pretty well thought through. It looks pretty darn clean, and you said you're like 25% of the way completed through the book, right?
That's correct. Yep, 25% of the artwork is already completely done, and we have 10 pages completely penciled as well. Right now, I'm just in the process of inking those next 10 pages and then getting those colored as well.
Alrighty, awesome. Yeah, looking forward to that. Definitely back this book. A bunch of great tiers. I'm real excited to find out what the interior covers look like.
I have an idea for what those covers are going to look like, but I have to. I want to at least get those penciled down before I show people the covers.
Gotcha. And when you do unveil it, you're gonna have like a little thumbnail of these, right?
For sure. Yeah, the thumbnail is going to come up, and I'll actually put down on the for the interior pages on that other column. I'll actually have like the full artwork that they'll be able to see.
All right. And then as you release new updates, you will be making use of the updates tab, I presume.
Yeah, I'll also be updating new art pages that I'm working on, as well as the in progress for the pages. I'll try to do possibly maybe a weekly update or even a bi-weekly update, but I want to make sure that people I want to make sure that they're not getting spammed, like to feel like they're not getting spammed,
Yeah.
but then also to know that it's coming, so at least so that way they know. Because for the people that have backed it so far, they know that the fulfillment will uh, either end or begin in May. But I want them to know that I'll be working on it consistently throughout the time from here to then.
Do you have a YouTube channel where you post videos of drawing certain pages or?
Yeah, I actually have a YouTube channel. It's the same as my Twitter handle. It's for BoogieBotComics. Everybody can find me there on YouTube at BoogieBotComics, Twitter at BoogieBotComics, as well as Instagram. On Instagram, I completely post nothing but artwork on Instagram. and sometimes I'll post maybe a comic that I'm reading or just something that I'm watching right now at the moment. But yeah, those are all the places you can find me. I'm usually all around a lot of these streams, and I'll see you. Hopefully, you tune in for all of those.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, sub to his YouTube channel as well. BoogieBotComics. Uh, Thank you for being on the show. Uh, Definitely great to have you on and check out this campaign you've got.
It was my pleasure to be on here.
You can find me on Facebook and YouTube under WyzGyz Entertainment. You'll find me on Twitter at WyzGyz Tweets. They um, right now, I guess I'm partially censored or banned on Twitter, so I have very little visibility on people's timelines these days, and I'm kind of restricted in what features I have access to. Um, so if somehow it's showing that you've unfollowed me, go ahead and refollow if you would. And you can find me on Twitch at WyzGyz Twitches, Parlay under WyzGyz Parlays. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Mark the bell for notifications so you don't miss a video or stream. And I want to thank everyone in chat for joining us as we check out this awesome looking graphic novel, Robert. Again, this is sci-fi, steampunk, western, all rolled up in one. Those are all genres that I really dig, so I'm looking forward to this book. Post in the comments below what you're most excited about on this project. And be sure and back it. Thanks to everyone who will watch this on replay, and thanks to our very special guest, BoogieBotComics.
Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. It's a pleasure. We are ending the broadcast in 3, 2, 1.